25-year-old Irene Garza was living with her parents, and it was just after dinner when she told them that she was going to confession, and she'd see him later. I guess you could say that God was what got Irene off. And I also guess that if you wanted to know what type of person she was, her last conversation was with her cousin, and she worried that because she was late, she might not make confession. This was the sort of thing that upset Irene. But little did the pretty and petite young lady know as she walked out that front door that none of that would matter, because her death clock was now ticking. In this life, it don't matter what God you believe in. If the Reaper comes a-knocking and says your time is up, you have little choice but to abide. Irene had been a teenage beauty queen, and I suppose that it is safe to say that she was tasty, no matter what era your taste buds originated from. Finger-licking good, I suppose you could say. Well, that is, unless you're a gay. Then you might as well be watching doggies at a doggy show. Bow wow, woof woof. The young woman was sins to confess, borrowed her father's car for the 7-minute journey. It was about 4 hours later that one of Irene's cousins came to her house, white as a ghost, saying that although Irene's car was in the church parking lot, she'd gone missing, and it appeared that if she had something to confess, well, she didn't confess it that day. When the parents called in the quesadilla-eating cops, well, they were baffled. How does a young woman show up for church, line up to confess her sins, and then disappear into thin air? She'd been seen by numerous witnesses getting out of her car, going inside of the church, but it had appeared that she never came out. Almost like her sins were so bad that God called her home right there on the spot, a first-class ticket to the abyss. Cops instinctively figured it was one of the local perverts who had abducted the young girl, looking for a place to drop their load. But when they started shaking them down, sure, there were a lot of stinky fingers, but every road led to a dead end.
Will be cool again tonight. You may expect a high of 58 today in Houston and vicinity, a low tonight of 40, while right now in Houston the temperature is 42 degrees, with relative humidity standing at 86%, winds from the northwest at 6 miles per hour. So live it up and enjoy today's partly cloudy skies and warm temperatures. That, for the moment, is...
It was upon hearing the news that the tight-knit community jumped into action, and hundreds searched for the young woman and the surrounding areas. And if they feared the worst, those fears were confirmed when a shoe was found a mile away from the church in a wooded area. And for many people, this now confirmed that the beauty queen was no more. It was on the second day that she'd been missing that her purse was found a short distance away from her shoe. And her family started to believe that they had lost a leaf from their family tree. It was 5 days after the beauty queen had gone missing. The cops from the next county phoned in, and they said that they found a woman with 5 days worth of rot, lying in the mud with the eels and the leeches, wearing those shoes, and they figured it was the beauty queen, although she wasn't no beauty queen anymore. And I guess just to make sure, her mother, the one who birthed her, came and made the final ID, and it was her daughter, brutalized in the most unimaginable of ways, taken to God way too early. And by all accounts, the funeral, while everybody from surrounding counties showed up. After all, she were a beauty queen, and I guess it were fitting that even people who didn't know her paid their last respects. God cops, now looking for a murder weapon, had drained the canal. And what they found, oddly enough, was a mini slide projector where you could project an image on a wall. When they asked in the paper who owned it, a priest came forward. And oddly enough, that priest was the one who worked at Irene's church and heard her last confession. And although investigators figured there was something right about the sweaty priest, they struck him off the list. They were a priest, after all, and he had an alibi. And the case of Irene Garza went cold. As years went by and DNA technology advanced, cops were hoping they'd be able to link the DNA to someone in their database, but the case remained cold. But it was in 2016 that a former priest came forward to police and told them while he was sucking off another priest that this priest admitted killing a young Latino woman.
He put her in a bathtub and also covered her with a plastic covering. When he left this place, the things he heard last was, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe."
This priest was John Fight. And when cops went over their notes, they'd realized that he had scratches on his hand. And he'd even failed a lie detector test. Liar, liar, pants on fire. And the only reason that he'd walked free, because he was a God man, and cops had cut a deal with the church. I mean, if you can't trust an ass-fucking murdering priest, who can you trust? This world leaves me to despair.
Legion forever!
That book says